After meeting Brittany, I realized I wasn't meant to be married. It makes me laugh to see her. I stuck with her for a year. In the history of glam metal, Tommy Lee is the most famous drummer. He is also one of the most controversial people in American pop culture. His loud drums on songs like Shout at the Devil and Dr. Feelgood made a whole generation go crazy. But his name was in the news for something other than music. There was fighting, sex, or a big scandal. Tommy Lee was born to break every rule. He didn't just play the drums. He broke molds, no matter what. From the pyrotechnic stages of Motley Crüe to the world-famous sex tape with Pamela Anderson, from playing the drums in the air to getting punched by his own son, Tommy's life has been a never-ending circle of fame, failure, and desperate comeback. However, what Tommy Lee has done is not the main issue. Exactly this. He has been through a lot. So why is he still here? A name that can't be replaced? Since Tommy Lee was never meant to be a good example of a person. In a world full of rules, he is a symbol of life and pure instinct. A life lived that was too real and crazy for anyone else to dare to live again. Beginnings. His full name is Thomas Lee Bass, and he was born in Athens, Greece, on October 3rd, 1962. Not many people would guess that one of Hollywood's most rebellious artists was born between East and West and grew up in a world where the Cold War echoed and the Mediterranean was beautiful but sad. His mother, Vasiliki Vula Papadimitriou, was a former Miss Greece. She was a beautiful, strong woman who put on a glamorous front that Tommy would later find hard to keep up. He had an American soldier father named David Lee Thomas Bass who was stationed in Greece with the NATO troops. Tommy was born when fierce beauty and strict discipline met. He would soon learn to bear, to adapt, and then to rebel. The family soon moved to the United States and settled in the Los Angeles areas. As a child, Tommy moved around a lot because his father was in the military. He had army meals, tight routines, and spent afternoons watching his mother put on makeup in a hair salon under the soft yellow light. Tommy often got lost in his own noisy world because he was an only child, one where the walls are being hit by drums, guitars, and made-up riffs. When Tommy was 4 years old, he got his first toy drum kit. It was a gift that was meant to calm down a hyperactive child, but it opened the first door. Instead of just playing the drums like other kids, little Tommy lived inside them. His first hits were awkward and offbeat, but they came naturally to him. He learned nothing from no one. He learned by listening, watching, and making his own beats. While he was a teenager, the family had finally settled down in Covina, California. Tommy never came out on top at school. Poorly organized notes and not much talking. He didn't join any sports teams. He was in charge of his own world in the shed, where he had his old drum kit and a few cheap amps. He got really interested in famous drummers. For example, John Bonham of Led Zeppelin is known for his stormy rhythms, Peter Criss of Kiss for his explosive stage presence, and Alex Van Halen for his lightning-fast skill. Teenager Tommy Lee didn't want to be famous. He wanted to be a great drummer that no one else could play like. He wasn't interested in college or sports teams like his friends were. He played the drums for local bar bands at night, training until his hands hurt. He would come to school with bloodshot eyes from not getting enough sleep. Everyone back then thought Tommy was hopeless. Besides, he thought he was keeping track of time for something bigger. And, yes, when he met Nikki Sixx a few years later, the last piece that was missing in what would become the huge hit band Mötley Crüe finally fit. Before the big stages, Tommy Lee's career began in smoke-filled workshops, with unpaid gigs and dreams that were too big for a small town. Tommy joined the punk and metal waves that hit the American beaches in the 1970s. He had long hair, a skinny body, and defiant eyes. He played in a glam rock band in Los Angeles called Sweet 19. They played shows at clubs where drugs and drink were often more common than the music. Tom Lee caught Nikki Sixx's attention at one of these crazy shows. A showy bassist looking for a drummer for the new band he had been thinking about. Nikki was struck by both Tommy's rough, violent playing style and just being around him. In addition to playing in time, he tore it apart as if he were at war with it. Both musically and crazily, they hit it off right away. Mötley Crüe was formed in 1981 by guitarist Mick Mars, who was quiet but fierce, and singer Vince Neil, who had gone to high school with Tommy and was very charismatic. They were all outsiders with different personalities who wanted to shake Los Angeles to its core and then take on the world. Too Fast for Love, their self-released first record in 1981, was a big surprise to traditional rock fans. The style was a crazy mix of glam, punk, and heavy metal, and it looked crazy too. They wore thick makeup, leather pants, and were very unruly, which created something that rock had never seen before: planned chaos. Soon after he turned 20, Tommy Lee became a big deal. He wasn't just a drummer. He was the life of the show with his wild hair, long legs propped up on the bass drum, and teasing, half-sincere grin. The music world was shocked when he played his first 360-degree spinning drum solo on tour in 1987. It was never thought that a drummer could fly. Tommy Lee had gone from being a kid who played drums in his garage to becoming one of the most famous drummers of all time. But he did it in his own unique way. He didn't go to church. Theories weren't studied in great detail by him. However, he knew how to make a crowd go crazy on stage and read their hearts. Early in his career, Tommy Lee didn't have a lot of radio hits. It was made with blood, sweat, and the unsaid screams of someone who knew he was never meant to be alone or silent. Good luck, fame, and the drunken high of youth. Mötley Crüe wasn't just a band anymore by the middle of the 1980s. In the Reagan era, they were a way of life in the face of unrestrained hedonism. That storm of makeup, leather, lust, and amphetamines had Tommy Lee at its center. He wasn't just a drummer. He was the wild pulse of an age that didn't ask for permission to live. Crue became known as criminals in the glam metal scene with the 1983 album Shout at the Devil. But they didn't really become known until Theater of Pain, 1985, and especially Girls, 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 1987. As the screams of millions of teenage fans fill the air, mascara-covered bad boys pour out of jail cells and bars, singing about love, drugs, and worshiping strip clubs. With his strapped-in body like a fighter pilot, Tommy Lee sat on top of a huge spinning drum set and became a living symbol of the kind of show that no one dared to try but everyone wanted to see. Tommy was an actual artist, while many drummers just play in the background. He did not hide behind his kit. Instead, he ruled it. To make beats that were both wild and precise, Tommy smashed the double bass with his feet like he was running away from himself and his hands like steel whips. But it's also very accurate. Such music could only be understood by someone who had really lost themselves. Tommy's skill reached new heights on Dr. Feelgood, 1989, which was recorded after the band had to go to rehab. The album had tight technique, clever arrangements, and an uncanny knack for knowing when to hold back and when to burst. Songs like Dr. Feelgood and Kickstart My Heart not only ruled the Billboard charts, they also became MTV hits. Fans didn't just hear the music when Tommy came on screen. The beat of his drums pulled them into a world where reason didn't apply. Tommy's success wasn't due to being perfect. It was due to the harsh honesty with which he spoke. He made no effort to be nice. He didn't pick out his picture. He claimed, "This is me. Love it or leave it." He appeared with ink-stained arms, worn-out leather boots, and a rough voice. It was weird, but everyone loved it. That attitude of take it or leave it became what Tommy Lee was all about. A drummer who hadn't studied music in school and was playing like his heart was on fire. His flying drum solos weren't just for show. The only way for him to literally let go of what his body could no longer hold was through them. During a tour in 1988, Tommy said, "I don't play drums with my hands." The audience may have felt like their own hearts were being pulled, crushed, and made to dance when he played a solo, because he plays with everything that has ever hurt him, in pain and happiness at the same time. Tommy Lee and Mötley Crüe lived like there was no tomorrow from 1983 to 1990. Millions of albums were sold, and shows were full all over the world. As they got older, young drummers started spinning sticks, making raised kits, and taking pictures behind their drums. Though Tommy was the best at it because he didn't learn it in school, it was a result of being very lonely. That sound was the only way to get rid of it. People usually listen to guitars and lead singers in rock music, but Tommy Lee made everyone stop and listen to the drums. No one dared to say that they were just background noise. Life and sorrow in general. As the Mötley team started to lose chart power in the early 1990s, Tommy Lee started a completely different journey. Not a tour or recording session, but a regular person. There weren't any drum solos or stage lights. Just duty, love, and a lot of chaos waiting around every corner. At the height of the band's fame in 1984, Tommy married model Elaine Starchuk. The relationship was quiet and didn't last long. It ended almost right away, and it was the start of a string of close relationships that didn't last long. He got married to actress Heather Locklear in 1986, someone who looked and lived very differently from him. At that time, they were one of the most talked about pairs. She was the golden girl of TV, and he was the wild rocker from the stage. After 7 years, though, their different paces, beliefs, and drug use slowly tore them apart. After 2 years, Tommy started a relationship that was so explosive that it became a huge deal in pop culture. Cheryl Anderson. They went on their first date in late 1994, and they got married in Mexico just 4 days later. There were no guests, flowers, or tuxedos. There was just a bikini, a costume, and a wild statement to the world. In a way that no one else will ever get, we belong together. They threw themselves at each other out of instinct. But as soon as things became stable, that energy started to break down. Shortly after getting married, they made a secret sex tape on a yacht. In 1995, a worker who was fired from their job stole the tape. It spread around the world in just a few months. They were not only the unhappy targets of a huge invasion of privacy, but they were also the first famous couple in the age of the internet to become a worldwide sex scandal. Tommy got mad, and Pamela broke down. After suing and fighting back, the tape still went viral. They made an intimate bond that can't be erased. Millions of copies, millions of eyes, and never-ending rumors. The tape wasn't the worst blow, though. Tommy hit Pamela while she was holding their child during a fight about her parents coming to visit in 1998. Pamela reported it. Tommy got 6 months in jail and had to do community work and anger management classes. Keep your distance from his wife. There wasn't a lack of love in the marriage. Fear had spread to the next generation. After having his kids for a while, he lost his wife. In 2001, Tommy fell even deeper into depression after another terrible event. At their Malibu home, a 4-year-old friend drowned in the pool while there was a birthday party for his son Brandon. The babysitter left without telling anyone. The replacement was taking his dog for a walk. While others tried to save the child, Tommy called 911 out of fear. It had already happened. Although he wasn't charged, the victim's family sued him for $10 million. The case was solved without going to court, but Tommy said in a rare interview, "As a father, I always feel guilty. I really wanted to see. I desire that I had done something." When Tommy got out of jail, he got into shallow relationships, side projects, drugs, and most of all, alcohol to escape the growing feeling that no one trusted him anymore. In people's minds, Tommy wasn't the famous Mötley Crüe drummer anymore. As a husband, father, and man, he had become a warning sign of chaos, scandal, and failure. But in 2018, things fell apart again, this time in his own family. Tommy said cruel things about Pamela online on Father's Day. His son Brandon slammed into the room and punched him in the face. Tom fell asleep. Brandon said he did it in self-defense because he had been living with his drunk father to help him get healthy after 10 years of drinking. Pamela spoke up and called Tommy a sick narcissist. The family broke up again, but this time it wasn't a shock. But to a lot of people on Instagram, Tommy looked for a different version of himself over the next few years. He met social media star Brittany Furlan, who is 24 years younger than him. In 2019, they got married after dating for a while. This wedding won't have any chaos or alcohol. Brittany stayed with him while he got sober and kept track of every bottle of vodka and hour of sleep. All quiet breakfasts. One time, Tommy said, "Today is all he promises. Don't make big promises." Basically, not being drunk. "I only want to avoid losing more." Tommy Lee used to be able to shake arenas with just one drum hit, but now he just wants to keep his own beat steady. There were no screams, aerial drum solos, or acts of rebellion. Just a guy who has lost too much and is learning how to love, be a father, and not run away from himself again. Today, Tommy Lee is 62 years old, and many of his fellow drummers have faded into the background. But he still stands on stage like a torch that hasn't gone out. He has nothing left to prove after years of scandals and getting better, but he still decides to go. That pick alone shows that he's still alive and keeping the beat at this point in his life. Early in 2024, Tommy had surgery on his hands to fix 2 long-term problems that made it hard for him to play the drums: carpal tunnel syndrome and Dupuytren's contracture. He had been abused physically on stage for years, and this was the second time his body had fought back. This time, he decided to heal. He shared a picture of himself practicing with drumsticks again on social media with the words, "I've got my hands back, my life back, and my tool to make a living back." He went back on tour with Mötley Crüe just a few months after surgery. The tour began in Atlantic City, New Jersey, with a 14-song set list. It has a cover of the Beastie Boys' "Fight for Your Right" and a brand new song called "Dogs of War." Reviewers said Tommy's performance wasn't as cocky as it used to be when he was younger. Instead, they said it was more steady and intentional, like each hit wasn't just a reflex but a choice. At the end of 2025, the band will continue with a special residency in Las Vegas. This shows how popular this glam metal star still is. In his spare time, Tommy Lee lives in a $6 million mansion in Calabasas, California, with his present wife, Brittany Ferlin. His other relationships were usually explosive and ended quickly. This one, on the other hand, has been calm and stable. Tommy's girlfriend Brittany got him into rehab and kept an eye on everything, from how much he drank to his sleep plan and daily routines, giving a man who had been lost for too long some structure. Their lives aren't made to look good. Brittany was on a podcast in late 2024 and told the truth. "Tommy only showers about once a week, but I don't care. I love him just the way he is." The quote got a lot of attention from reporters, but it told a rare truth. Tommy had never felt this kind of quiet happiness before. It was hidden behind his odd behavior. In early 2025, terrible wildfires were destroying Los Angeles. Tommy took to Instagram to call out other celebs for promoting music instead of recognizing the disaster. People are still talking about their new music videos while other people are losing their homes. "It's disgusting. Currently, no one is interested in your remix," he wrote. People could tell Tommy's voice was real again, even though they didn't agree with his tone. He wasn't dulled by fame. His beats sound like they came from a man who knows exactly what he's hanging on to. He's not the drunk, upside-down drummer from the Dr. Feelgood era or the drunk man from the 2000s. Legacy and influence. Tommy Lee isn't the best drummer when it comes to technique. Compared to Dave Lombardo, Neil Peart, and Mike Portnoy, he doesn't play as fast, as carefully, or with dynamic style. During the 1980s metal wave, Tommy Lee is without a doubt the drummer whose name will always be linked to that wave. He was the most visually iconic member of Mötley Crüe. He was skinny, tall, had long hair, and was covered in tattoos. He drummed with his whole body, as if he were trying to break through the stage itself. He was the first person to make the drummer the star of the show, after years of being in the background. With crazy acts like the famous drum roller coaster that sent him flying over the crowd, or a suspended drum kit that could turn 360 degrees. It was more than just a show, it was a statement. "There's a drummer here, and you're going to look at me." Tommy had a big impact not only on the heavy beats that hit you in the chest, but also on how he portrayed the rocker spirit as defiant, unrestrained, unruly, and deeply hurt. Joey Jordison, Brooks Wackerman, and many other drummers were influenced by him. Later, these drummers said that he and Mötley Crüe helped form an entire part of American culture called glam metal, where rock wasn't just music, but also theater, image, fashion, and scandal. Not only did they sell music, but they also sold a way of life. And in that world, Tommy Lee was the perfect bad boy. He was liked and criticized, and no one could really copy him. Another thing that he left behind is a spirit that won't give up. There have been scandals, jail time, deaths, anger, and ridicule, but Tommy Lee is still standing, still playing, still laughing at what society thinks is normal, and still making people say, "That guy, he's still as crazy as ever." Tommy Lee is not liked by all. Not everyone likes the way he lives, loves, or hurts himself. But nobody can deny that he will always be a part of rock history. In a world where masks are becoming more common, Tommy's rough, crooked, messy, and unstable nature seems strangely valued. He's not whole. He was never that. He has done a lot of bad things that have hurt both his business and his personal life. Why people remember him, though, isn't how many times he's fallen. In spite of breaking everything, he always manages to get back up. Feeling about someone who lost everything and then came back still playing like he had nothing to lose? Tell me what you think about Tommy Lee. He was the last rebel who was still making music when everyone else stopped. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more journeys of icons who don't just live in the past, but in what they still manage to hold on to today if you think this story is worth hearing.